this episode of An Engineer's Journey, I interviewed Julia Andrews. She studied civil engineering at the University of California, Irvine. Hello, my name is Connor Dixon. I'm here with Jules Andrews, a aerospace engineer that went to UCI. What inspired you to become an air engineer, and was there a specific moment in your life that you wanted to be an engineer?
Yeah, actually. So what's funny is that back in high school when I was applying to colleges, usually you want to go in with a declared major. So what I ended up doing is every school that I applied to, I would take the list of majors that they offer, and then I would start deleting the ones I knew I didn't want to do. And what's funny is that I'd always go straight to engineering and delete all of them because I didn't really know what they did, and I was like, "That's for smart people, not my thing," and I just move on. So I actually got in to UCI through computer science and very quickly learned I did not enjoy programming. I think I actually did end up learning to program later, but I think at the time they just like threw Java at me, and I was like, this is not as fun as I thought it would be. So it was actually with my job, I was working at the rec center in the weight room. One of my coworkers was a civil engineer, and he specialized in water resources. And I was telling him, I was like, yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what I want to major in. I don't know what to do. I was like, maybe I'll just do math because I'm good at math, and might as well just do something I'm good at. And then he asked me, he was like, do you like physics? And I was like, yeah, physics is fun. And he goes, well, then you might as well do engineering because it's twice the fun and you'll make twice the money right out of college. And I was kind of like, we like that. We like fun. We like money. We're big fans. So um, from then I started looking into engineering. But because I declared so late, I felt like I didn't really have a ton of options. So I ended up going with civil engineering, and it's more just because I was interested in material science engineering. But I was worried that at some point it would get too difficult. And because I was declaring so late, I needed to make sure I finished within the allotted time. So while civil engineering did interest me a bunch, it was also kind of a more safe bet because those were the classes that just like clicked so quickly. So I knew that like I would have a better chance of finishing in the allotted time. So
And so what was your experiences in college going to UCI and then changing your major and going into a major so late into college?
yeah, so this is a fun story. I highly recommend declaring as early as possible. um, so since I went from computer science to undecided and declared, um, when I was in the undecided and declared, they threw me into the arts department because I was also a cross country and track athlete at UCI. So I was taking dance classes for cross training. So that would just be like 3 times a week. I'd do ballet or jazz or something, and it was just really good cross training as a runner. So I guess they saw that and threw me into the arts department. So when it came to trying to declare in engineering, I wasn't allowed to talk to engineering counselors. I can only talk to arts counselors about engineering.
Mm.
That was an issue.
Hmm.
um, so when I went and tried to talk to an engineering counselor, they told me, nope, this is only for engineering students, but you can talk to our student rep over here that should be able to help you. And they tell me, oh, just go on the change your major criteria website, which is just a website that shows what classes you need to change your major. I'm like, all right, cool. So I take the classes that are on the website. Some of them don't even exist anymore. But I'm like looking at it and I'm like, okay, well, these two classes were combined to take this class. So let me go take that one. I come back after a couple quarters and I'm like, hey, I took the classes. It's not letting me declare for some reason. Can you tell me what's going on? And they go, oh, the website's been wrong for years. And I'm just like, okay, that's cool.
Oh, yeah, that's
I'm
nice.
like, can I talk to an engineering counselor now? They're like, no, because you're not declared. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So they're like, oh, just like take this other class and then you should be good. So I'm like, okay. Um, and then I was like, is there anything I should be taking in the meantime? Because now, I'm going into my third year. Like we're starting to get close to the end here. Like I need to make sure that like I'm gonna have enough time to finish everything. And I go,
Hmm.
just go on the website and see what classes you're supposed to take for your major. Um, I ended up taking so two classes you'll take is statics and dynamics. And statics should be a prerequisite for dynamics. It wasn't listed as a prerequisite because a lot of people like to take them at the same time. But really, when it comes to knowledge, it's easier to take statics first and then dynamics. Well, statics was full, and I'm like, there was no prerequisites for this dynamics class, so I was like, I'm just going to take that. That was the hardest class of my life, and I didn't do very well in it. So then when it came to trying to declare again, they're like, oh, you did really bad in dynamics, so you need to like retake that and stuff. So basically, I kept getting strung along for years. Long story short, as everyone just kept telling me something different until I was calling the engineering department and saying, hey, this feels targeted. Like it seems like I'm getting wrong information. I know it's not targeted, but like you guys need to tell me what to do because this feels like harassment at this point. And I think because I used the fun H word, they responded immediately because no school likes to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did finally get an engineering counselor to meet with me, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry you feel like you've been mistreated." And I was like, "That is an understatement. Like you have no idea what I've been through this whole time."
Mm-hmm.
And then I was told, "Oh, well, you can't be an engineer now because every engineer has to finish in 5 years or less. Otherwise, we kick you out without a degree." And I was sitting there like, what do you mean I can't finish in 5 years? And they're like, well, it'd be really tough. You'd have to take like double the amount of classes as a full-time student plus summer and summer after you graduate. And I just kind of told them, I was like, bring it. I want to be an engineer. So like that's all I'm gonna do. And boy, did they bring it. I could not do that again to save my life. It was very, very tough taking so many classes. At the time on the quarter system, a full-time student is 16 units, and that's normally what engineering students take, and that's roughly 4 classes. I was taking 20 to 26 units every single quarter.
Mm.
And it was funny talking to other engineering students because they would ask, oh, how many units are you taking this quarter? And I'd be like, oh, 24. And they go, oh, I took 20 units once. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, I took 20 units once. And that was terrible. And the way I describe it is anyone can run a marathon once and get through it. It's when you have to
Mm-hmm.
get up the next morning and run another one and get up the next morning and run another one that it gets really, really tough. So that was my college experience. I felt like I couldn't focus on anything beyond the next day, which also made it really tough when it came to studying for midterms and tests and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, it was, in the end, I mean, I am so glad I did it. It was so tough, but it just like, you kind of just get in that mindset of continuing going. And then when I came to applying for my first job, they really liked that because they wanted someone who wouldn't turn around at the first locked door. And I was like, well, let me
Mm-hmm.
tell you about all the locked doors I
And
had.
it seemed like taking all those classes was a big challenge. Has there been any other big challenge that you faced in engineering in your engineering career?
As far as work related, not nothing too crazy. A lot of what I would say a lot of the challenges that you end up facing is just getting the job done. Um, or when I switched over to being a project engineer, a lot of it is priority focused and just fighting for priority, getting the right people in the right room and making sure that your parts are moving through the system. I was in qualification testing, so it was a lot of when you have different qualification projects coming together, it's just making sure that your parts are getting priority and getting them moving. Uh, yeah. I can tell you though that work is easier than school. So if you persevere and get through it, work is easier.
And what advice would you give a high school student going to engineering? You said already declare early and figure out what you want to do quickly. Is there any other advice that you give to high schoolers or young engineers in college?
I guess my advice is kind of general college advice. Just because if you want to be an engineer, you're gonna do it. Well, if you want something bad enough, it's gonna happen. It's gonna get tough, but if you persevere, it's gonna happen. I think just college advice in general is do your best to stay active, and also to make friends because your friends end up becoming your network, and it's very valuable that once you graduate college to have that sort of network, and also just having friends in general. And then on the
Hmm.
staying active side, even though I was taking so many classes and I had literally no time for anything, at one point I found line dancing and I would go line dancing once a week. I would get there at 10 and line dance till 1 and then get up at 8 or 7 the next morning, depending on when my first class was, and just keep going. And that was like my one workout the entire week.
Mm.
Um, but just trying to make some sort of time because that also helped keep me from absolutely losing my mind. Because it was just the one time where it's like, okay, we can move, we can be active, hanging out with my friends, and stay sane. And also on the fit side, I do
Hmm.
meet a
And
couple. Uh, I do meet a couple of the younger engineers that kind of lost their fitness throughout college, and so it's sad when I see young engineers that already have knee problems and back problems, and they're like 23 years old. So definitely do
and
your best.
what should a high schooler look for in an engineering program and school for their application process? What is there certain requirements with professors or equipment that they have in a college that would separate them from a different college?
So you're gonna learn roughly the same stuff wherever you go. The base classes are all pretty much going to be the same. I think mainly what I would be interested in, and also what would be good to do throughout college, is the extracurricular options. So if they have clubs like within civil engineering, they had the American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE. They did concrete canoe, where you build a canoe out of concrete and then you race it. There was the earthquake engineering club, where we had to build a whole tower out of popsicle sticks and then take it to Boston and then shake it. Um, that is where you're going to get the best experience. The information in classrooms is going to be roughly the same. Some professors are great, other professors aren't as great. Everybody learns differently, honestly. So even if someone says, oh, this professor is really hard, maybe they were just hard because they weren't teaching in the way that that person learned the best. And maybe you'd really benefit from them.
Hmm.
But I think the
And
biggest thing is looking for extra stuff.
what is your experiences going from a civil engineering college to working on rockets with Blue Origin, and you were in a rocket judging competition in South America? What's your experiences like changing from civil engineer to working with these big companies in the aerospace engineering?
Yeah, so kind of how I changed was uh, when I was going in to meet with my counselor one of the times. I can't remember if it was my fourth year or fifth year, but I went in and was like, man, I should have done aerospace. Like, I want to switch to aerospace. And they're like, you literally can't. Like, you were already on such a tight schedule. Like, that's literally impossible. So what they ended up doing is they're like, okay, we're going to take your civil engineering with the concentration in structures. We're going to have you gear it towards aerospace structures. And when it comes to your senior design, do a senior design project within the aerospace department. So I did that. And that was kind of how I ended up getting my first job working on the aerospace senior design project. That was when I got offered the internship. So that's kind of took me off from there.
Hmm.
Moving into Blue Origin, that was back in 2020. It was March of 2020. I started a new job. Not the best time to start a new job because my first week was the week we went into lockdown.
Hmm.
So interesting timing, but
Hmm.
about a month and a half, that company ended up laying off a quarter of their workforce. And so all the new hires were first on the list. So I didn't even mind. I was like, I know, I'm new. That's just what happens. So it was from there that I started doing a coding boot camp, and I put open to work in Oregon or Washington because my boyfriend at the time, now husband, we had talked about moving to Oregon or Washington at some point. And then someone reached out with an opportunity at Blue Origin as a contractor. And so we just went ahead and moved up to Washington. And from there, after being a contractor for a little over a year, I got to move into full time. Um, so the rocket competition in Colombia. So also at Blue Origin, that's where I met Camilo, who runs a nonprofit where basically the combination is rockets and soccer. And they use soccer as a way to get kids interested in STEM. So they actually have kids camps that they run where it's half a day of soccer and then half a day in the classroom learning about space. And apparently the kids love it. I haven't helped a lot with one
Hmm.
yet, but it started out as just kind of like a weekly thing where I'm playing soccer on Thursdays with this team. And he's just talking about this different outreach. Well, we were given the opportunity down in Columbia to go and help judge this rocket competition. And it was there were three different like categories. The first two were ages or grades 6 through 11. And then the last category was university students. So they all had different parameters and stuff, but basically they had to build a rocket and it had to go up. One of them had an egg, and then the egg had to deploy and make it back down to the ground safely. Um, the university students had a little bit more complex stuff. They had to get more data. But that was really, really incredible. And also goes back to the extracurriculars in college, like being able to do those types of things as a college student is
Hmm.
not only excellent experience, it's also really inspiring and allows you to be creative,
Hmm.
which you won't necessarily get in the workplace unless you're working in research and development. So that's definitely a good time to go out and be able to explore new things and be creative.
All right, that's it for me. Thank you, Jules. If you like this episode of An Engineer's Journey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment if I should do season 2, and comment any additional questions you'd like me to ask. That'll be all. Bye bye.